to the first hour, and our guest who is on the line now, Dr. Benjamin Carson, who is the Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Too many accolades and awards to enumerate, but he is the recipient of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest honor that an individual in the United States can receive. Dr. Carson, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It is so just wonderful to have you. You have been an inspiration to so many. I find you one of the most fascinating human beings. I can tell you, had it not been, if I had an opportunity to try to talk to you for 3 hours, I would. But we're both, facing the constraints of time. So let me kind of jump right in. One of the things is, and I'm holding this up, and certainly our audience around the world where we're live streaming this broadcast can see this book. It is called Sacred Bond, Black Men and Their Mothers. I happen to be in that book with my mother, and as you are also. And so much when we hear you talk, we hear you talk about the influence of your mother. And something I read in your story this morning was she said to you, Benny, you'll be the best doctor ever. Are you?
I don't know if I'm the best doctor ever, but I'm the best doctor that I can be. And, she never allowed us to think that we were less than anybody else and that we were victims, and always expected the most of us and said, if anybody can do it, you can do it, except you can do it better. And I think that was something that motivated me throughout my training and throughout my career. And once I learned to stop comparing myself with other people, that was the best thing, because, when I turned things around academically in school, I got to the point where if I got a 99 and somebody else got 100, I was devastated. I just couldn't deal with that until the next test when I could get a better score than they did. And then one day, one of my classmates told me that he hated me because I was so obnoxious. And I said, obnoxious, moi? He said, you always have to have the highest score and everything. And I realized I had become just like the people that I used to despise when I wasn't doing well. And I resolved in my mind that day not to compare myself with anybody else, simply to do the best that I could do. And I started doing even better after that. And it was like a giant weight lifted off my shoulder because I wasn't comparing myself with other people.
Well, we're going to get to a point here in this dialogue where recently some folks thought you were obnoxious at a prayer breakfast with the president. But we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
You hear these words, you're the captain of your ship. When things go wrong, don't blame others. You have yourself to blame.
Correct.
What do you think about when you hear those words now?
Well, that was what my mother always said when we came up with an excuse. And I strongly emphasize to young people all the time that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you in life is you. You're the one who actually gets to make the decisions. You get to decide whether you're going to take control of your life or whether you're going to give control over to others. And if you decide to give your control over to others, then don't complain when things don't go the way you want them to.
Dr. Carson, you have been one in the public eye for quite some time. And you have not been at all bashful, like some folks are, about, to some extent, wearing your religion on your sleeve. You give credence to a higher power for assisting, helping, guiding you in making all of the decisions that you make. And I'm going to ask you and each of my guests this morning about this, especially with the idea of Dr. Browder coming on and talking about ancient Egypt history and that sort of thing. In the Bible, somewhere it says that Jesus was a man had hair like lamb's wool and skin like burned brass. How do you weigh in on what the color of Jesus was, or his ethnicity?
Well, I'll tell you how I weigh in. I was asked by an NPR reporter, Dr. Carson, why don't you speak about race very often? And I said it's because I'm a neurosurgeon. And she looked at me very quizzically, thinking, what does that have to do with it? I said, when I take someone to the operating room, and I cut that scalp and I peel it back and I take off that bone flap, and I open the dura, I'm operating on the brain. I'm operating on the thing that makes that person who they are. The cover doesn't make them who they are. It's the brain that makes them who they are. And that's the way I kind of look at it all. If we tend to be relatively superficial in our thinking, we tend to identify more with superficial things. And if we tend to be much deeper, then we look more at root causes.
Okay, if you could, there's so very, very much I want to get in here. You were the first person to successfully separate co-joined twins. Can you give us sort of a brief synopsis as to what even gave you the idea
Sure.
that was possible?
Well, I was the first one, along with my team, to separate type. These are called occipital craniopagus twins, joined at the back of the head. And the reason it's so complex is because the vasculature is very, very complicated, and they generally bleed to death. Well, I had gotten interested in the whole concept of conjoined twins. For some strange reason, it just fascinated me, and I started reading a lot of the literature, trying to figure out why the results were so dismal with attempted separations, and concluded that it was exsanguination or bleeding to death. And I was talking to a good buddy of mine who was the chief of cardiothoracic surgery at Johns Hopkins, and he had done a lot of work with hypothermic arrest, where you cool the body temperature until the heart stops, pump all the blood out of the body, and then you can operate on a baby's heart up to an hour before you have to pump the blood back in, warm it up, and start the heart up again. And I was thinking, if we got to a critical point in a separation, we could go on hypothermic arrest, get through all the complicated vasculature, and then restructure it, reconstruct it, and then pump the blood back in and start the heart up. And then I was saying, why am I thinking about this? I'm never going to see a set of twins like that. They're very rare. Lo and behold, 2 months later, here they came. Here came the German doctors presenting this case all over to major medical centers to see if anybody had a solution. Because in Europe, they were advocating to the mother that she choose which twin she wanted, and they would chop the other one off. And, she couldn't come to that decision because she loved both of them. And so I explained this ideal I had about using hypothermic arrest. Everybody said, whoa, that sounds like it might be good. And we sat down and we started putting together some plans. And, I'm very much advantaged by being at a place like Johns Hopkins, where you have a lot of incredibly smart people who know a lot about different things. And, we put our heads together and we came up with a plan. And, the rest is history.
Did you have challenges to that effort? Were there people telling you that it was too risky? I mean, you ultimately, every time you open that scalp, you have the ultimate responsibility in your hand. I'm sure that if it is, if it's similar to when I've had surgery, you actually sign off on papers that ultimately say, should there be an accident, the hospital is not to blame. So you carry the ultimate responsibility in that operating room. Did you have any serious challenges to that effort?
There are always naysayers. I've faced that throughout my entire career. When I started doing operations on achondroplast, I was criticized severely by many of the famous geneticists. You neurosurgeons are the ones who kill these patients. Now the operation that we proposed is standard throughout the world. When I started doing hemispherectomies, there were a lot of people who were skeptics. I got involved with a lot of very controversial tumor cases. craniofacial stuff. I don't sit there and spend a whole lot of time thinking about critics because, if you do that, you'll never get anything done. I wrote a book called Take the Risk. And, the basic premise is nobody really ever accomplishes anything by sitting under the olive tree waiting for good things to happen. You got to be out there. You got to be pushing the envelope. You got to be thinking. You got to be using all the things that are available to you. And, that same thing applies to what's going on, in our world. So, that's why I'm not a shrinking violet when it comes to talking about things going on in our world. It doesn't do any good to cure the organism and then to put it back into an environment that is unhealthy.
How did you feel about the movie that was made on your life, starring Cuba Gooding?
I thought it was done extremely well. I've had people trying to make a movie about my life for a very long period of time. I've talked to probably most of the major production companies. And the reason that I didn't do it for a very long time is because they all believed in something called artistic discretion. And, artistic license. I didn't believe in that. They could take your story and they could change it around and make it more interesting. And I said, it's interesting enough as it is. I don't need anybody having me have an affair with a nurse or something. So I said no. TNT and Sony agreed that they wouldn't do that. And, the price I had to pay is they were calling me all the time during the time when they were shooting the film. And they said, are you busy? I said, I'm operating someone's brain. They said, well, we just got a quick question.
Oh, yeah, that's right. right. Hold on right there.
That's right.
I want to tell my listening audience, you can call in. The number to reach us is 202-889-9797. I'm going to give that out again, 202-889-9797. The guest on the line with us right now is Dr. Benjamin Carson, Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Okay, Dr. Carson, obviously, again, I'm going to repeat, man. We could just go on and on and on about your incredible career. But let's fast forward to February 7th of 2013. You were invited to the presidential prayer breakfast, and you made a speech. I looked at that speech, and then I had to look at it again because there was so much controversy about it. And frankly, I didn't see anything that controversial.
I didn't feel anything that controversial either. We live in a society today where people have to make a controversy out of everything. What I did simply is diagnose what I think are some of the real problems that we face and gave some ideals, because I never say anything without giving an ideal about how to correct it. We live in a society where we're supposed to have freedom of thought, freedom of speech, and the ideal that you can't express yourself and that somehow that's attacking someone is absolutely absurd. And we should not allow ourselves to be manipulated, particularly by the media, who likes to stir up controversy. There's no question about that. What we really need to be doing is focusing our energies, just like I did when I was working on those twins, utilizing lots of different ideals, lots of talent, focusing it on a problem and solving the problem, not spending time sitting in our trenches shooting at each other, calling each other names, and acting like absolute infants.
There were calls after that speech, and this was more so from what I would refer to as right-wing media. It seems as if the right-wing media really embraced you afterwards, and that the more progressive media had more negative things to say. What's your take on why each acted and behaved as they did?
Well, what I really focused on is the enormous outpouring of sentiment that I received from common Americans. I mean, just thousands and thousands of communications, and the particularly poignant ones from elderly Americans who said they were just waiting to die. They had given up on America. and now they felt invigorated again. And the reason they felt invigorated again is because somebody was talking about common sense solutions to things. And that's what we really need to be concentrating on. How do we get common sense out there? Now, you know, I've done a number of interviews. I have a ton of interviews coming up this week, mostly on, I would say, conservative media, but certainly on a lot of liberal media also. You know, I did a segment on NPR yesterday. I've got one coming up on CNN. I've done several liberal talk host shows. I don't really care whether it's considered conservative or liberal. What I care about is whether it's considered logical. Is it something that makes sense? And what we have to do is get ourselves out of this ideological situation which is destroying us. You know, I'm particularly concerned about, you know, the minority community and the black community, because we've got the intellectually elite class who likes to go around and pat people on the head and say, there, you poor little thing. I'm going to take care of you. You don't need to worry about anything. That's not helping anybody. That's not getting anybody out of a bad situation and getting them to a better situation. What it is perpetuating a situation where the elite class can remain elite, and people need to see through that.
And if you go in that community, obviously you wouldn't take that approach. What's your approach?
When I go into the black community, which I do very frequently, you know, I talk about empowerment. How do you empower yourself? How do you empower those around you? And I, you know, I'm not politically correct. You know, I talked to a large group of students this week, and then talked to the girls about respecting yourself and not letting some little guy come along with his fancy talk and impregnate you and leave you in a situation where your baby is 4 to 9 times more likely to grow up in poverty and not be successful, where your education is going to be compromised. And I talked to the young fellows about not allowing yourselves to succumb to that peer pressure because somebody has convinced you that society has done you wrong, and therefore you have no remorse about going out and committing some crime and getting what truly belongs to you. That is a bunch of crap. And people really need to stop listening to that and start focusing on the values and principles that kept the black community strong throughout slavery and in the post-slavery Jim Crow era, and get back to that value system that creates strength, and not listen to all of this progressive secular stuff which is destroying our families and destroying our communities.
Progressive secular stuff. That's an interesting comment. Folks, I am talking to a gentleman who I consider to be one of the most fascinating human beings on this planet. It is Dr. Benjamin Carson. I'm sorry, Dr. Ben Carson, Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Carson, how do you respond to the criticism from the black community that you went on Sean Hannity's show, for example, and during that broadcast, there was a question posed, and your response about the president was that, well, he's a community organizer, and obviously, you know, that's a small aspect of who and what he is, but you know, you were very direct in making that comment. And, you know, I've seen quite a bit of criticism. How do you respond to that?
Simply by saying that is largely his background, and that explains to me the reason that he spends so much time with this them against us mentality, because that's what community organizers do. What a president should be doing is being president of all the people, creating a vision behind which everybody can get, not segmenting a certain group and saying, you know, they're the reason that you're not getting yours, and you know, and that typically, if anybody is honest, knows that that's what community organizers do. So I don't necessarily blame him for acting that way. I'm just explaining why he tends to see things as us against them, as opposed to how do we all work together to achieve a goal?
And is it your real sense that he behaves in a way that is not being president of all the people in the country?
Absolutely. I mean, again, you should see the outpouring of mail, of communications. I mean, it is unbelievable. And, you know, when I go somewhere, you know, the people who come up to me and say, thank you for speaking out. What has happened is, you know, the political correctness in our society and the fact that people are so afraid of being criticized that they are afraid to speak out. They're afraid to even think. They think that there's some monolithic thought pattern, and this is particularly true in the black community. You're supposed to toe the line. You're supposed to think this way. Believe me, there are people who are perpetuating that kind of thing because they need to keep certain groups of people in line, because those people, if you can keep them thinking the same way, you can get them to vote for you no matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter whether you're making achievements or not. And you can lock up all kinds of political power. And, you know, I'm calling on people to start thinking. That's the reason that I wrote the book. I want people to look through that, understand the history of what is going on, understand the background of what's going on, understanding the role that God and faith plays in our society, and why the destruction of our Judeo-Christian values is resulting in the destruction of our society.
Perhaps we might make breaking news here today. Look, my background is marketing and public relations and promotion, so I never have those hats far from my big head here. If you were to enter the political spectrum, it's no joke. Anyone has Googled your name in the last, few weeks or since that speech at the prayer breakfast. There is talk about Dr. Ben Carson throwing his hat in the ring to become president of the United States. Now, if you were to do that with your approach, your analysis, your philosophy, that would be the biggest news story in a long, long time. I mean, that would be some havoc, man. I'd love to see how that might turn out. Any consideration for such?
I do not have a political aspiration, to be honest with you. I don't think I would...
That sounds like a candidate right there, Dr. Carson.
I would not fit well into that arena because I don't believe in political correctness. There's no way I'm going to go around saying stuff to people because I think that's what they want to hear. And there's no way I'm going to get into that arena of special interest groups and unholy alliances. That is completely contrary to my nature and to my faith in God. I wouldn't do it. So that's why I've said I have no intention of doing it. I do know that God has ways of doing things. If he indicated to me that that's where he wanted me, I would obviously do it. But so far, he hasn't grabbed me by the collar because that's about the only way I would do it.
And you know that there are folks out there that would say, and they for example, certainly George Bush was accused when he said God, led him to invade Iraq. An avalanche of criticisms by I don't think by people who I think were well-meaning. So as you bring God into this equation, and you are attacked for that, how do you respond?
I respond with Romans 8:31. If God be for you, who can be against you? I really don't care what anybody else has to say. I care about what God has to say. I care about God's principles. And what he has shown us clearly is what I'm always going to abide by. I don't care what anybody says. I will never put what man says above what God says.
Now, again, because you're such the incredible intellect, I think the world is interested, and I know that I am, not in a argumentative in any way or confrontational manner. But when you say, what God says, I think, the assumption obviously is that what God says is in the Bible. And would you be an advocate or an opponent of the idea that the Bible is the inerrant, 100% Word of God, when obviously so many have said it was written by man so many centuries later?
Well, interestingly enough, there are multiple predictions that were made in the Bible long before they happened, and they came true. I don't know of any other book that has the ability to do that. And when you look at the principles that are espoused in the Bible, they are the kinds of principles that are uplifting, the kinds of things that create harmony in a person's life and in society. And the things that the Bible forbids, says that are not good. I defy somebody to show me where they are good.
So you take it literal, and I asked that question with the backdrop of having paid attention recently. There was a family dispute, and the father was just insistent upon letting his 16-year-old son know that Deuteronomy 21, I think it was 18 and 21, gave a parent the right to stone or to kill a child.
Well, now bear in mind, there are a number. You have to know how to read the Bible. You have to know how to interpret it historically. There were a number of ceremonial laws, that being one of them, which are no longer relevant, as has been depicted quite solidly by Paul in the New Testament. Those things were abolished when Christ came as the sacrifice. It abolished all the necessity for all the ceremonial laws at that point.
Dr. Carson, what would, if you had your choice, how would you best like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as somebody who helped people to use the amazing organ that God gave them, called the human brain. Billions and billions of neurons, hundreds of billions of interconnections, remembers everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever heard, can process more than 2 million bits of information per second. Use the thing. Don't sit around and let somebody else lead you by the nose and tell you what you're supposed to think and how you're supposed to act. Learn to use that not only to improve your own life, but the life of those people around you.
Please talk to us just for a minute, because I know you have to leave in a moment. Talk to us about what is yet to be discovered about the brain, and how you feel about what the advances are going to be in the near and long-term future.
Well, I think, we are barely scratching the surface here. You hear people say, don't learn this, don't learn that, you may overload your brain. You could learn one new fact every second. It would take you more than 3 million years to begin to approach the capacity of the brain. And what we have to learn is, how do we use that brain more effectively? How do we recall things more effectively? And I think as we learn more about computers and how we use computers, we learn more about how we function also. And I'm very excited about all the things that are coming to light in neuroscience. We're learning the importance of sleep with learning the importance of various types of food intake, particularly carbohydrates, in association with learning and creating lipoproteins. Learning the deleterious effects of certain things on learning. All of these things, if we put them to good use, are going to make a big difference for us. Also, as we learn to know that people have individual strengths and weaknesses in their learning programs. So in our schools, when we can begin to engage in individual learning, which we are going to be able to do with computers, virtual classrooms, a number of things, not in exclusion of real interpersonal interaction, but in addition to it, I think that's what's going to allow us to catch up, because we're pretty far behind right now, particularly in science and math.
I am going to be, in the not-too-distant future, ringing back your way through perhaps our good friend, mutual good friend, Armstrong Williams. I really would like for you to come back on again. This is only scratching the surface of all the questions I'd like to ask
well, thank you.
I've
enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carson, for joining us at the Rock Newman Show.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
God bless you. Dr. Benjamin Carson, Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Again, I will repeat, one of the most fascinating individuals I think that exists on this planet. You're listening to the Rock Newman Show at WEAC Radio, 1480 AM. You can see us and hear us worldwide on the web at www.rocknewmanshow.com. We're going to take a pause for the cause, as the old DJs used to say. That's what them old folks told me they said, because I wouldn't know otherwise.